Hello, everyone, and welcome to part two of my little studio session, which is a production stream. Is it a studio session, a production stream? I have no idea. Anyways, thanks so much for the response of last week's show. Since it was the very first time that I did something like this last week, I was really happy to hear that some of you could actually get something out of this, what I was doing here. Obviously, we'll continue today of where we kind of left off last week, but I want to try to do a little different approach for some of you who are new here and didn't watch the first part. I'll give you just a quick little overview of what I'm doing here, what stuff I'm using, and why we're doing this. I'm not really entirely sure. And to learn something, I guess. For me as well, I'm learning too. And I want to play more with the machines, record something. So I probably want to talk a little less than last time, so you see more what I'm doing. And you can ask me then question, because I have Twitch app open right here. And I'm going to read your comments, and then if there's some questions that reoccur multiple times, I'm really happy to answer those. Right. Oh, I'm just reading. I just read the Beatport official comments. Yeah. Ask me here, but maybe repeatedly ask me there, because the comments sometimes tend to go by pretty fast. It is 7 p.m. here in Frankfurt right now. We're planning to do this for maybe 3 hours. Last time I was granted a little bit longer because we went in overtime. Who knows, maybe that happens today again. Let me get you in what I'm actually doing here. So let's switch some cameras. This here, and I hope you can hear me all right. This here is my, let's say, improvised workspace. This is a setup. Hey, can you see me? This is a setup that I put in here with all the stuff that I had lying around. And because I wanted to be able to work on music, and I don't really have a studio at the moment. Due to Corona, I was rebuilding a new studio and I had to stop it. And so I had some equipment here. The equipment that I have here is actually really, really nice. But one thing I wanted to tell you, I told you already last time too, it is not really important what kind of equipment you're having. What do you use at home? I'm trying to do this more or less not in order to explain you how, for example, the MC707 is working, or how do you use the 303. I'll drop that in here and there, obviously, but if you really want to know how these machines are working, you probably want to watch some tutorial videos, and they're probably more in-depth, and you'll learn a lot about the machines than listening to me, trust me. Anyways, so I have this setup here, and this is how I currently make my music, do remixes and stuff like this. And so I was really happy when Beatport asked me to share whatever it is I'm doing here. I was happy to do so. Again, as I said, happy to answer any questions. And I'm trying to look at this at a little bit of a, like, from a beginner's point of view, to take away the fear of starting something with music. From a, let's say, medium experienced person in music, maybe you find some new ways on working on stuff, because I try to have a different approach each time. And I don't want to really repeat everything I was saying in the first part. The first part you can watch on it's either on the Beatport YouTube channel or it's on my YouTube channel. You can watch the whole first part. But again, it's not about what stuff you're having. It's not about what, if you have this machine now or this machine, you can do all that stuff that I'm doing here, even only by downloading a sequencer software, or a DAW. We have this word again, a DAW, a digital audio workstation, that's the word, which, for example, would be Ableton Live. And last time I already said it, Ableton Live is like for free to download. You can try it out for 3 months. I'm not paid by Ableton Live, it's just the software that I've been using most of the time in the past, I don't know, since 1.5. We're at 10 point something now with the versions. So if you're totally new to this and you just want to do some beats and want to try out some stuff, get yourself some sort of digital audio workstation. Logic Live, Fruity Loops, there's so much out there. As I said, Ableton Live, and then you can start playing around. So this year is just basically you're watching me trying to do stuff, and we'll see what comes out, and I'll comment on what I'm trying to do, and maybe we'll end up with a cool track. Maybe not, you never know what the outcome is. I've read some questions before the show that some nice people were sending me, so I thought I'm gonna answer those. And one of the questions that came up most was like, please tell us about your monitoring setup. Tell us about sound. Hold on, I gotta close the window here because it's too noisy from the outside. When it comes to starting to produce music or even mix music, it really matters what you're hearing. It's perfectly logical, but it never gets old to mention it. You don't really need any crazy machines, filters, compressors, or other amazing equipment to make your sound better if you're not hearing what's happening. So when I suggest to someone who wants just to start up making music, I would say, first of all, get some sort of environment going where you can listen to music in a let's say in a linear way, so you know what you're listening to. That could be a pair of really good headphones, like those. They don't even need to be really good. You need to know them. Could be Sennheiser's HD25s or something like that. As long as you hear enough of the frequency spectrum, let's put it this way. I have some really good speakers actually. For those of you who watch my DJ streams, which I'm broadcasting from one floor below me, you probably see my PMC's MB2 speakers on really nice stands. These used to be my studio speakers. Since I don't have a studio, they're now down there, and I use them for my DJ streams. They wouldn't fit into this room anyways, and that's where one of the questions was leading on to. It's like, how do I choose some speakers if I want to work with some speakers? You need to find your speakers according to the size of your room, in this case, for example, I'm using these Yamahas. I think they're HM8s, correct me if I'm wrong. And they're standing on the table, which nobody should do. You should never put your speakers on the table, but hey, they're actually only here to sort of like, let's say if I lean back and I just want to listen to something, not on a high volume. But if I'm mixing, I'm using my headphones because I know the sound of my headphones way much better then I could judge the sound of the speakers. The reason why I'm saying this is like you got to know what you get to know what you're hearing. You get to know your speakers. Why is that? Like, just imagine you're a painter and you're trying to paint a picture. You would not really do this in a half-lit room, right? You wouldn't be like in a sort of a dark room sitting there trying to paint a tree. You couldn't see it. And it's the same with audio. You need to at least hear what you're trying to do. So you could have the most expensive compressor. It doesn't really make much sense if you don't have the possibility to hear something. So you actually could be already fine with a laptop and a good pair of headphones. That's already your studio. You really don't need much more. Anything that I'm using here is a bonus. Any synthesizer, filter effects, or anything that I'm using here, drum machines, you could have also in the box. That is great. Some people were asking, why do you have that stuff then? Fair question. First of all, I have some of that stuff before I had a computer that was able to do this. And secondly, it's nice to touch things. And there's machines, for example, like the MC707 that I have right in front of you here, that where Roland managed to basically put a whole studio into like one machine, including a mixing desk. A sequencer, a synthesizer, a drum machine, and that's nice to have. It's nice to be a little bit outside the box. But that is nice once you've worked so long in the box. You probably will have the desire to buy something that is outside of the box. And it's great stuff. I mean, the Electron Analog Rhythm I have since years and years, which is a great drum machine. We'll look into this later too. This I have pretty new as well. This is an SH01A, which is, let's say, the Roland Boutique version of the original famous and legendary SH101. A big synth back in the 80s, and still is, and we're using it today too. So things like this are kind of affordable, and they have a great sound, and you can play around with them, and you understand synthesizers like this. That's kind of how I learned it. So basically, I taught myself all that stuff, or I watched other people doing it, and I tried to remember what they were doing. I'm not really the most technical person when it comes to this. Like, I'm still trying to get my head around the MC707. It's a very intuitive machine, but obviously you can do so much more with it than I'm showing you today here, because you could do like sequence and everything. So I'm talking a lot again, do I? Yeah. So let's just get starting from where we left off last week. So welcome back again, and I'll show you what we've done last week, and we'll take off from there. So, what did we do last week? We turned on all the machines, we got some sounds going, and I recorded them in the computer. That's where we left off, and then we started kind of mixing the kick drum. I would love today to go 2 steps back again, and again, especially although for those people who may be new to this, show where everything is coming from, play around a little bit with it. Again, that's what I mentioned last time, learning the stuff, see what everything, you have something set up with your machines or even inside the computer, and you have MIDI controllers in front of you which control certain things, volume knobs and filters and everything else. You basically need to learn which volume to raise, which filter to use, which sound it will affect. And you can do that by playing around with it. The good thing with playing around, it's A, fun, and it's B, you're learning where things are, and C, you come up with ideas that you would not really come up with if you're just sitting in front of it like thinking, okay, what can I do with this? Yeah, so let me have a look into our chat here. What's going on? All right, I hear from Techno Minimalism that the last week's show was helpful because his kicks are sounding now better. We're going to get into kicks much more. All right, so let me. All right, Steve live. Hey Chris, I have a question for you. Actually, do I need glasses, or is the chat of Twitch really small? The D16 Punchbox sounds better than Sonic Academy Kick, because I can't decide what to use. Dude, I don't know Sonic Academy Kick. I can only tell you, judging by the name, it generates a kick. That's probably like, it does its job. The good thing about the D16 module, it's not only generating you a kick, it also gives you the possibility to process that kick, like to put distortion, spit crushing on, limiter, little ticks on top that you can move, little samples that you can put on top of it. So much stuff with the D16 Punchbox. It's a D16 group, it's a Polish plugin maker, and the plugin's called Punchbox. You'll see it later. I'll tell you about it. So I suggest you to go with the Punchbox. You can't go wrong. It's really not that expensive. Well, anyways, it's really nice to read your comments. You're really nice. That gives me hope that today's show will be somewhat fun again. Maybe a good idea is if I put my headphones on. For those who were asking, I'm using Audi's headphones. I think they're called Audi's, A-U-D-E, I think Z-E-E, something like this, Audi's. This is the LCD X1, which I'm using here. So, because I can't turn it up. I have neighbors, right? So that's why I'm mostly working on headphones. Greetings back to Belgium. Yeah, you can also obviously talk to each other in the chat and help each other out. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat that know sometimes more about certain things that I'm doing here than you do, than I do. All right, let's see what we got. Hold on. First of all, I'll show you this. Hey, there's me. This is basically what we were left of last time. So this is my Ableton Live setup. Up on the top, I usually have a kick. I don't know, it's just me. I have the kick always up on the top. And the kick here, in this case, because we just talked about it, it's the punch box. And the punch box basically has, again, watch last week's stream if you want to hear exactly what it does, but it has a 909, an 808, 606 sample-based kick drums, which you can work in any case, like with all that stuff. So apparently we have a kick drum running. Do we hear anything? Oh yeah, you do. I just need to turn up my sound too here. So you see a nice sounding kick drum. Then for the sake of understanding what I'm doing here, you see right here, 909 snare, clap, high tom, sorry, I just said dinner. Sorry, high tone rim shot and all that stuff. This is there because, as you might see back here, I go individually out of my 909, out of the single outputs. I go into an Antelope Audio sound card with it, which is via ADAT connected with 8 channels to my Apollo Quad from Universal Audio sound interface. And this is why I'm able to record, to play everything basically, but I'm recording each single track. So it's basically a multi-track recording. That's what you usually call it, that. Otherwise, obviously, I have the MC707 here. I have a 303, an old one, which is the Devilfish version. I have the Roland SH10A. Both of these machines go into my Model 1 mixer from Play Differently because I have it. You know, I wouldn't need to. I could also directly go into my sound card with those, but I like to have these extra controls. You know, you have a little bit of extra controls here, and that's what you don't see only if I use a different camera. Hold on, there we go. There is this little rack rolling trolley that I have here. You see it? See it here? There. There. Where's my hand? Here? There. This thing. That's an Aventide H8000, which I have since years as well. And for just some fun reason, I connected it with the send and returns on my mixer here. So let me play to you what that means. Why is things so low? So I have still the same pattern running from last week with the 303. Turn things up for me. And you can see here, I have a panning effect on my H8000 Aventide down there. And a really cool sounding reverb. The 101 is coming from here. Again, a panning effect for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe it's cool, maybe we'll use it later. And who says we can't put reverbs on bass lines? Really cool machine this thing is. I really like that 101 thing, let's say the 01A, and I really love the 101 too, because when I got into making music, it was just like, you look at it and you start to kind of understand what a synthesizer is about and what it does. Oh, there's this oscillator, and then you can mix it, and then you have a frequency filter, and then you can form the envelope, and it's right in front of you. It's so nice, and that's kind of like I'm basically still looking at it because of still don't really technically know what the oscillator is actually like how it's working. Does anybody really know, any electronics physics people amongst us who can basically put together an oscillator and tell us how it's working? You don't really need to know that, you just need to know what it does, not how it does it. What else? I have the Electron here, and in a box I found these really nice electric harmonics. This is a flanger chorus pedal, and this is the memory man, which I didn't use because it's for those things that are connected here right now. It's really messy. It gives us like crazy delays and reverb effects that's too much for now. So let's keep it simple, and that's the next point. Where was I? I wanted to answer some of your questions that you had in chat, and I diverted. That happens a lot. So getting back to the speakers and back to what you're hearing. You should be, if you have some sort of listening environment right now where you can hear the differences of some stuff, I'm going to tell you later when I'm working on something, do you hear the difference between this setup or this setting in the plugin or this setting in the plugin? Like you probably already have a pretty good listening environment if you can make those changes out. And that's enough. That's all you need. But if you're trying to look into what kind of speakers you should buy, look at your room. You don't really need huge speakers. I mean, obviously, if you want to have a kind of a club system kind of sound at home, you probably need some big speakers. But I know really amazing producers. Ralf Hildenbeutel, the producer who I'm working on for my album music, he basically works on 2 little Atom speakers, and his mixes sound absolutely insanely fantastic. Why is that? Because he sits right in front of them. So the closer you are to your speakers, probably some would argue the less stereo image you have, obviously. But the closer you are to your speakers and the lower the volume, the less the room has an influence on your sound, because every room has an influence on your sound. And the way in a good studio is just to make that influence on your room as little as possible. This is why people invest money in building nice sounding studios, so the speakers sound good in that room. It's not only about the speaker, it's also about the room. But the smaller the speaker, the closer you're at the speaker, the less the room actually plays any role. And you can still do good mixes. So don't be afraid of that. You just need to train your ears. So Stevie Life, so you're using the SH101 for sub bass and the TB3 for mid bass, and you glue them tighter with the Model 1. That is actually very well witnessed. That is kind of the idea behind it, yet I haven't decided yet if the 101 or the 303 is going to be the lower bass or the higher bass. I don't know. We'll find out. At the moment, the 101 is sort of the lower bass line, and I think we'll keep it that way. So let me continue here, and I'll show you what we got. Hold on. So yeah, so this is basically, this comes out of the Model 1, which goes into my mixing desk. It has these 3, and then we have the analog rhythm here, which essentially does this kind of stuff. Yeah. You guys remember that sound from last time? I still have the same thing. Actually, I didn't really do much. I did a remix over the weekend, but because I knew, um, I because I knew I would be continuing the stream. I didn't use all these machines, so I limited myself to only the samples and everything that I found on my computer. And that's the next point where I wanted to get to, because people were asking me like, yeah, you just have these machines and oh, I have the Sub 37 right behind me. Sorry, sometimes I keep forgetting mentioning it. Sorry, Mog. Because it's behind my back. We've used it too last week for just one little drone. But you know what? It's just whatever comes. And you know, limitation is not a bad thing. Limit yourself. I've essentially, when the lockdown happens, I actually only had the 303 and the 909, and there's an 808 in the back there, but which is sadly a little broken. I need to get it fixed. Like some voices and some knobs are not functioning anymore. And because I was limited to only these couple of machines, and obviously my computer, I mean, you're not limited to your computer, to be honest. You know, this is like a stupid thing to say, because you literally could have anything in there, like literally anything, any sound you want, any synth you want. But anyways, limiting yourself makes sometimes a lot of sense, because you're not trying to escape finding a completely different synth, completely different route when you're looking for something. You force yourself, no, I'm going to get this working with this machine. And there's a reason. Whatever machine you're having, there's a reason you're having that machine, right? So it's not by coincidence. And that's another thing that I wanted to mention, is like anything we're doing here might seem very by chance, and obviously I don't really have a big plan of what I'm doing here. I kind of have an idea in my head what the outcome should be, which is sort of a track where we can dance to, or you could mix into a techno set. But how do we get there? I don't know. Let's just turn on the machines and do something with them. But you might think everything is coincidental, what happens from that point on. But I mean, there's always has been reasons why you have that certain machine, and then obviously what comes out of that machine. Don't think that everything is just happening by chance. No, you're doing it. So, and that's a good point in continuing what we're doing here. Yeah, Analog Rhythm again is essentially a drum machine, but with really amazing capabilities, because it sounds different. It sounds different to a 909, and sometimes you want to spice up the sound of a 909 hi-hat while layering it with a hi-hat which is FM based or whatever, you know, like a different engine, like something like this. Okay, actually I was working a little bit on this, because I've noticed our recording from last time had quite a swing in it. It had quite a swing to it, which felt okay at times, but sometimes it feels a little odd, because if you're combining one sequencer that has a swing to it with a sequencer, for example the 909, which has no shuffle, flam, or swing, or whatever you want to call it, then sometimes it sounds weird, but sometimes it doesn't sound weird. So it's another thing. Just trust your ears. If it sounds okay to you, you don't really need to find a tuning machine that tells you if it's in tune or not in tune. If it sounds fine for you, it sounds fine. Then go with it. You know, if you play it to someone else and this person is like, oh my god, what are you doing? Then maybe that other person has no idea of what's going on, or you should maybe think about if you really know what you're doing. But trust your ears. All right. All right. Let's just play some stuff. Let's go back to this view here again. This one, because I wanted to show you. So we have the kick drum up here. We already recorded a lot of 909 stuff last week, like this one. Sorry, I'm just reading your comments. Yeah, like a low tom, we have a ride, we have a hi-hat, a high tom, a rim shot, just stuff that happened to be there and was kind of like fun to use. So I've recorded all this. Probably we're going to use this because we recorded it in one go. But since we're starting again, I'm probably... Oh. Whoa. My headphones were way too loud here. All right, my headphones were way too loud. So I would say we recorded all that stuff, but I'm going to take it all and I'm just going to, besides the kick drum, move it back there because... we're just going to do this again. We're just going to record some stuff and then we see, and this is how I basically go about it. I would hit start now, have something running. Obviously you need to hit the record buttons on all of these things here. Let's see, all of them. Besides, we don't need the MIDI files here. No. Okay, we don't need this one and we don't need this one. Is this? This is MIDI. And this is MIDI, so we're not recording this. And obviously we want to turn in everything into input because we want to record it into these channels. All right, do we have it all? All right, so here's the idea again. I just have something running. I'm gonna play around with stuff. Right now I'm not recording. I'm just gonna be playing around to again learn to see what's happening. And then at some point we'll start recording. And the nice thing about this is you go with the flow, you know, you start off and you just add some hi-hats and you do this and you do it in a natural way. And this basically enables you to, or this basically helps you to already arrange your track in a way because you're naturally kind of playing around with stuff. You're taking stuff away, you're adding in stuff. And it's a nicer and more organic way to arrange your track rather than you could also go into this view, which is the track view, and this is the arrangement view. In the track view, you would maybe then start just adding stuff and go into arrangement view and just move little things around and just put them there. Obviously, we do this later too, but you know, if you have first a ground structure which organically has appeared, it maybe already gives you an idea of where you want to take this track and where the breaks should be and how it's going to go on. Again, guys, I am sorry, I'm talking so much again here. So let's give it a go. I'll show you the top view again. And I'll let just stuff run. And we'll play around with them without recording for now. I'm just playing around with them. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to try and check your comments too, because because I can. And then you have something to listen to while I'm reading the comments. All right, let's do it. All right, it's a kick drum running. That's always a good thing, right? And let's add a bass line. And I've changed the bass line actually a little bit from last week with the 101 because I found it was all over the place and we want to keep things simple. So it's a very simple bass line. But if it's simple, it should at least be effective, right? that should tell you what's going on with the MC707 here. So last week, for those who are new, I sampled loops from my old Stigmata records, and I put those into the MC707 so I could play around with them. For example, here. Yeah, so that's, for example, some useful samples, some not so useful. You never know what you're using for, so. You can hear there's already effects added to them because that's a nice thing about the MC707. You have these 3 encoders here, and you can choose what they're used for. So you can put a filter on them, or you can use them as sense for a delay or reverb or a multi-effect, even a chorus and everything. Like, that's a lot of stuff you can really quickly do this with. And what else I did? It's like the tune. So. Yeah, there is more here. Obviously another drum track. I didn't know I have this there. I forgot. This is a tone track. Basically it's the internal synthesizer that generates this sound. Might sound a little normal in this environment here right now, but maybe it works in the track context, you know? Same with this. Lately I'm really into pads. And I thought that was a nice pad, and it kind of works with whatever we have running here. So just to explain it, what comes out of this machine right now. Maybe we'll work on more on this later. I showed you what comes out of these 2 machines. 909 should be self-explanatory. I showed you what's in the analog rhythm. What I didn't show you yet is the electric mistress here, because I found if I run the 303 through this, which is a flanger filter kind of thing machine, it has some really cool sounds. Let's listen. Where are we? Here. So again, 303. Again, going through the H8000, which has this typical, very nice black hole reverb pattern patch on there, which Eventide is kind of famous for. So we have this, and now let me run it, show you what the electric mistress is doing to it. Alright, you get the point? You get the point, so let's see what we can do with it. So let's just stuff run now. And play around with it, and then we'll record at some point. And in the meantime, ask me questions and I'll try to answer them. that's a swing pattern that I was talking about early on. Here, if I change the swing, you hear what's happening. Just maybe a little teeny tiny bit of swing can bring in some little funky stuff. Hold on, I was reading an interesting question, and I think I'm able to turn down my sound on my monitor out, right? Can I? Yeah, I can. That's great. And you can still hear me. Perfect. So the question comes via Beatport Official about that sub-MIDI based stuff. I'm using a Moog miniature to make sublimes cutting at 90 hertz. And then I add my TB3 and System 1M on top from 90 hertz to 1 kilohertz, but always sound too messy. That made me move those one octave higher, making them more synth low line than bass. Any suggestions? Yeah, I have suggestions. First of all, what I've noticed in your question already is that you're looking at the numbers. There's nothing wrong in looking at the numbers, but it's way more important to listen to what's happening. You might not even have to cut at 90 hertz. Listen to it, find out from what point it starts to sound messy when you're doing things like this. Every bass has a certain main frequency, obviously, depending on the tune of the bass, and you can fit it somewhere. Working with multiple bass lines, like for example I do, using the 101 as a bass line at the 303 on just a little teeny tiny bit higher up bass line. It's not even higher up, it's the same note in a way even. It's just filtered maybe differently or something like this. You can EQ it in a way you don't really need to worry about on which frequency range it's working. If you listen to it and you EQ it in a way until it doesn't sound messy anymore, you don't even need to look at the numbers. You kind of like can look in the numbers afterwards and see what you've done to it. But obviously working with a lot of bass on records, which I usually tend to do, I really love the lower frequency range. Then you have to be careful because things can easily get not only messy down there and undefined, it can also suck the energy out of your track because you put so much energy into a speaker to move those huge cones that the bass basically will produce, that produces the bass, that the speakers can't keep up. So of course you got to cut your low end. Nobody wants to put any like 20 hertz or 25 hertz super loud in your speaker. You will not really hear it other than a super, super low hum. But it really takes away, you have to, like, all that energy that you put in there is missing then for all these other frequencies up there. They're going to be like, what the hell, I'm not having any energy because all that big guy down there sucks it all away. So you have to kind of like find a way to figure out which your main bass is, give that the main space, and model the other one around it. Maybe we'll get to this with what's running now. Interesting, last week, what's going on? We have no bass drum. Oh, the kick drum is off there. We have a natural break right now. It's funny, when I listen to this now, it more sounds like a house track. Last week it sounded like a techno track, and I don't really change much. But we'll just continue. Okay, another question. Thanks Beatport, by the way, for highlighting these questions. It makes it so much easier for me to read them. If you could copy them and put them under those purple thingies, backgrounds. How do you know when you have enough layers, and how do you know when it's too much going on? Yeah, you should know that. That's always a new question. It's like, do you really need another bass? Do you really need another hi-hat? Do you really need another ride on top of the ride that you're having? Or are you not really happy with the ride that is going on, and then you're adding another ride in order to make yourself a little bit more happy? Shouldn't you delete the ride? I said it last time, like, do not be afraid to let go of ideas. Even ideas that you had an hour ago where you thought like, oh, this is mind-blowing, this is the best idea I've ever had. If an hour later you kind of feel like that idea doesn't take you anywhere and it just is in your way, just delete it. It's past, forget about it. Move on, just constantly move on. So that's one way to get rid of a layer that you might not need. And then find out which layers are the most important ones to you. You maybe have, like, let's say 10 tracks going and it sounds a little messy to you. And then go through each track and ask yourself, which sound do I not really need here? And by that you already clean it up. And when you then down back at like maybe 4 layers or sounds or whatever you want to call it, and it sounds too sparse and boring, maybe obviously you're missing a big sound or a big layer. But it doesn't need to be 5 layers, it just maybe needs to be 1 layer, but that one layer better be fucking good and going through the speakers to get your attention. Okay. Wow, I can't keep up. It's a question about the audio interfaces. I want to buy something additionally to have more inputs, outputs. I have RME Fireface UC right now. I would like to connect something else by ADAT. That's a good idea. I did that too. Any recommendations or advices how to make more Firefaces UC from are very expensive to me. I don't want to invest so much money again for an audio interface. That is a good question, but if you want to have more in and outs, you probably want to have another Fireface. That would work wonderfully together. Or you sell your Fireface and you get yourself a bigger one with more digital ins and outs, which is maybe cheaper than buying an additional one. I can't really tell you because I'm not too familiar with all those brands out there right now. I'm using Fireface UC here. I have 2 of them here. I have an Antelope Audio here, and I have a Apollo there. These are all really, really fucking good sound interfaces, and I'm really happy to have them. They work well together, but you don't necessarily need such expensive audio interfaces. There's really great audio interfaces already. Native Instruments, for example, Audio 10, I'm sure that still exists. They're really great interfaces. By now, they're all really they're all up to a certain standard, and you can't really go wrong with them. A little disclaimer, most of the time why I use different sound interfaces also for DJing with my setup, other than, let's say, the more consumer audio interfaces, was not necessarily because they were sounding better. I mean, in the case of Antelope Audio, that is the case. It sounds incredibly good. But it was more or less because they were more heavy duty. They could survive touring life, getting out of a bag, putting into a bag, and that's why I wanted to have a massive metal box machine or interface. That's where the RMEs came in handy. If you have the money, I'll suggest you to buy an Interlock Audio one because that is the most stable sound interface I've ever used in my whole life. It literally has never failed on me. All right, another Beatport question. Ah yeah, that was the question I just answered. Okay, great. What's my BPM at Ableton Live right now? It is 130. I don't know why. It's just the loops that we sampled last week were obviously all at 133.33 because they were locked groove loops on a vinyl, and that's what they are mathematically to make it round and endless. And so I just put them down to 130. 130 seemed to be a cool tempo for this. I don't know why. I don't know. It just happened. Hey, Triply 2015, I arranged a track for a few days, was about 13 channels, 6 minutes long. I ended up deleting all of it except the drums and started again. You know what? I applaud you because most people, including myself in the early days, were not that encouraged and be happy to let go of work that you've done for maybe like 2 days. You're sitting in front of something for 2 days and you're just like, I can't delete this. I was working on it for 2 days. Forget about it. It doesn't matter because those 2 days were not wasted. You worked on something which you've learned isn't working. Amazing. That's great. Don't be sad about it. Don't feel shitty about it that you had to delete it. It's a great move to understand at a certain point that makes no sense what I'm doing here. And this is why I think also in the early days I sometimes released tracks that were like, why did I release them? Like what was in my head when I did this? And I did because I couldn't let go, because I felt like I put so much work into this track, I need to release it. And it's not the point. It's just like be okay with deleting stuff and getting rid of it, and at the same time be okay with just going for it, you know, and not thinking about too much. Oh, if I record this now, this sound is on top of the other sound. If it sounds good in that moment, just keep it and dedicate yourself to it. This is what you have then. Try not to go back and try to separate things in order you can retroactively work around this and stuff like this. Don't waste your time on stuff like this. You can have your setup like I do, laid out in a way so I have each individual instrument from the 909, for example, automatically recorded on an individual track. And then you just have it individually. That's great. But I could do exactly the same thing by just going the master out of my 909 and record everything in one thing, like the rides, the hi-hats, the claps. Obviously, I would pretty much set myself to a certain level relation between those, because you cannot, in hindsight, turn up the hi-hat in the same audio file. It's not working. But you could work like this. It's nobody says you can't, right? Let's go back to playing around with the music and learning what we're doing here, and then we record it and we go back into the box. I'm a little torn between answering all your questions and continuing here, as you can see. And I already talked way more than I thought I wanted to before this week's show. So let's go back to this view. You got to tell me that you're almost not hearing anything, right? I'm sorry, I had the monitor still turned down. My bad. I'm really, really sorry for that. I read a lot of questions of show us how you make the bases glue together. We'll get there once we've recorded them. We'll get into all the nice little plugins that make us glue that together. So maybe in case you've turned down your turned up your volume at home, you might want to turn it back down now, because I'm gonna get. I gotta get used to this fact that I have to turn up and down my monitor in order so you can hear me, and remember that to turn it back up when I'm done talking. I got a good question here. For someone who's an absolute beginner, do you suggest to just learning Ableton? Or should I start with some physical equipment? That completely depends on your budget. The thing is, not really. I mean, you should start with a digital audio workstation, let's say Ableton Live, because this is what you're going to use anyways. Like, you will end up using this, and you need to get your head around a software like this in any case, unless you want to work without a computer. Like, there's loads of producers who work without a computer, and you just get this kind of equipment here and sequences with each other and just record it on a tape. That could be done, but if you're really new to this and you're not like a total nerd when it comes to these kind of machines, then I would suggest you get Ableton Live. And if you have the budget, get a little one of these things here, the SH10A, or get the boutique version of the 909. So you have a drum machine where you have knobs and can turn and twist the knobs and see what they're doing. Or get something like this, or Electron is a little bit more expensive. The MC707 is pretty much a studio in a box, so that is all stuff I could recommend to you. But you would, I think, in 90% of all the cases of people who ask that question, you would need a sequencer, or digital audio workstation, DAW. So I would assume you should get into Ableton Live too. Hey Chris, do you sometimes use kick with the bass already built in, or you separate the kick and the bass in separate channels? I always separate the kick and the bass in separate channels because you want to treat them differently to each other, and I'll show you later why. And I'll make it quick. I'll show you very soon why, because it's already an hour and I've only been talking. I'm so sorry about that. I'm talking too much. Yeah, I know. Thank you for telling me I need to turn it up, because I forgot. Yeah, okay, I get it. And what processing do I have on my mastering, of my master channel? That is all questions for later, guys. I will answer you. We'll just record something and then we get into the box. I promise. And I turn the sound back up now. Okay, to speed up this process now, you guys know where things are coming from. I'm just going to record some stuff now so we can get into the box and start mixing stuff, right? Because I guess that's what most of you want to know more about. So I'll leave this view for you because you don't really need to see Ableton Live right now recording that stuff. I put everything on record here. And let's go for it. Am I recording everything? Am I recording everything? Hold on. I guess I do. Is this thing working? That, by the way, was the sub 37. But we have a sound recorded from last week, so I can use the sounds from last week too, and we just record something now, so we're happy. Let's do it. Hey. Hey. Huh, that's interesting. That's a good start, actually. That sound. You know, that's the sound I told you earlier about from the 707. Sounds pretty good to me. think we have recorded something. We have recorded something. Here we go. So, this... Oops. What do we hear here? What is going on? Oh, 101. Interesting. We don't need that. What do we have here? So we've recorded some stuff, obviously. Normally I would take a little bit more time to understand every synthesizer, everything that I'm working with, to get the most out of it, try different patterns, try different sounds, different things. But we want to be a little quicker here and get into the box and produce something. Since it is 8:15, I probably should be getting out a beer. Should I get a beer? Which reminds me, thank you again for the beers. I got from really nice group of friendly people. You can look at my post on my Instagram from last week. That I got a really nice amount of beers last week that I'm probably going to be living off from for the next 2 weeks, maybe. All right. We have obviously recorded the Model 1, which is this. Here, the Model 1, which is this track. Obviously, I recorded the 303 and the 101 together. Normally, I wouldn't do that. I would just maybe go one round, you know, just in a sense overdubbing. Like I have something running, this was fine. Next round, I'll just take care of the 909 and do little like fill-ins here and do stuff there. Next round, you know, you add a track after a track and you let the whole, that's kind of like how I've been lately working a little bit, but you always want to change the way you're working. That's really important. So lately I've been working like you have something running, you record a sound over the whole track. Now I've done everything simultaneously essentially, but I'll usually take more time to record it individually and just overdub it, you know? Yeah, I have everything running that I've recorded. We have worked on the kick drum last week already a little bit. I'll show you again what we did. So, what do I have on my master channel? On my master channel I have a limiter right now, as you can see. But the limiter is not really doing anything. Might as well turn it off, so I have nothing on my master. This is just the console for my Universal Audio console. It basically remembers the settings here. This is why I have to have it, and it doesn't do anything with the sound. That thing. That's what I wanted to say. Right. So I always try to stick to having nothing in the master as long as possible, right? Because anything you have on your master will be affecting your sound in a different way than you might expect. And that's why you want to not have it in there. All right, we have the kick drum here. Plugin Alliance. I'll show you Plugin Alliance. Plugin Alliance plugins are really, really cool plugins. Super high quality, especially those Brainworks plugins. And they recreated the various consoles from Neve desks and from SSL desks, and also from a Focusrite desk. This is the channel strip that I'm using at the moment. I don't know why, don't ask me, it just sounded fine to me. So let's turn this on. What did I do here? I did a little bit of compressing on the channel strip, apparently, and I didn't do anything else. I did not low cut the kick drum. I did not low cut the kick drum. You know what's funny, guys? I just see this. You have really different colors than I do on my computer. I'm not sure what's going on. That must be maybe my monitor out. I mean, you do have colors, I see that, but in your case, the Focusrite is like this rusty red, but in real world, like here with me, it's actually blue. So anything that is red is normally blue and the other way around. Does that mean it's inverted? It probably is. Yeah, I can see that now. But it's only blue and red that is inverted for some reason. The green is the same up there, the punch box, the green track is the same thing. Interesting. Can anybody explain to me why red is blue and blue is red? Funny. See that? When I moved it around. I don't know. Anyways, we were at the kick drum, right? Are you still with me, actually? I'm a little confused today, I admit. All right, so I just give a little bit of compression, and here we're at a point where what I was mentioning early on, if you can make out these differences on your headphones now, wherever you are, or on your speakers, then you're already well set up. I mean, this is a volume difference, if at all, so obviously you should be hearing this. But now we have this really, really cool EQ, which is called a Better Maker. And if I turn it on, you see what that does. I have added, essentially, where are we? I have added 69 Hertz. I boosted it by 3.2 decibel. Not that I knew what I was doing, I was just listening to it. At 2.1 kilohertz, for some reason I added about 4 dB, probably in order to get a little like attack on the kick drum. So let's turn it on. Again, obviously it's louder, so in order to get rid of that effect, I turn the plugin a little lower, because volume differences can really fool you. Like, really don't get fooled by volume differences. You probably have maybe, you could do really bad EQing on some sound and you just run it out higher in volume and it sounds better than before to you. It's only because of the differences in volume and not in the differences of your EQing. So that's why it's always good to kind of keep the same volume. And what's really helpful for that is if you have an analyzer in a way that I do. Just want to get this camera for you here. Look, I have a moving camera. Isn't that great? So this is my luxury item. I'm using it as my analyzer, and it also shows me how loud I am. So hold on, I'll show it to you. So if I turn, here we go. If I turn on if I turn off the EQ now, if I turn off the EQ, the Better Maker EQ, you see that I'm probably, when the kick drum is running, at -5 dB. And when I turn it on, I still want to be at -5 dB, and I just want to hear what difference what the sonic difference is. See, I could even make that a little louder. I'll turn it up now here. See that? And I turn it up so it ends up at the same. So -2.3. So now we're back at the same point, and if I turn the Better Maker off, does it make things better? That's the question. See, kick drum with the same volume without Beta Maker, and now we make. I know it's lame. We make it better with the EQ. Here, it's more punchy, more powerful, and there's a little bit more tick on the top. And if you can hear that, hey, we're back here. And if you can hear that, that's already good working environment you have. All right, back to this one. And then there's another really, really cool machine, which is, I don't know why every red and blue are inverted, but this black box is normally written in blue, so don't worry, I don't have any special versions. It's just somehow color inverted, whatever my screen does. So if we turn on this thing, hold on, we'll dial it into the same output volume without the black box, same volume, again, same volume, listen to it, with the black box. Oh, with the mobile camera the colors were right? Interesting. So it's basically my output, the output of my computer for some reason, but it looks cool. I mean, doesn't really matter, does it? Yes, Cyber Delicious, it does sound louder, but it is actually not louder. It is really the same volume. Can you believe that? It's just fatter. And that's what you want to achieve. You don't want to be fooled by volume differences when you do things. You want to kind of stick to the same output level. And in order to achieve that, Ableton Live, for example, has this analyzer you can put on in your master channel. You don't really need to do it like I do. So let's turn it on again. That's already a pretty neat sounding kick drum. I'm not Crumble Moob, thank you. I'm not using OBS, I'm using Ecamm. And there is a swap red and blue checkbox. That's interesting. So there's apparently that's an issue, or what? Is that an issue that somehow comes more often, that people need to switch green and blue? Switch green and blue? But guys, is that a problem for you if it's blue and green or whatever? Yes, it's sonic pressure, exactly, sonic pressure. There's a Max 4 device called Volume Compensator device that eliminates that problem. Using it to send and receive. Putting EQ to cut boost will keep the same level. That is a really good hint. Thank you, Taylor River 85. I really haven't gotten into the Max 4 Live thing. In the very beginning I did, but then I kind of lost it. Maybe I should look into this again. All right, so we have a decent sounding kick drum. I'm sure we can do way more with that, but let's add the bass. And let's see what the bass is doing. A good way to find out is using a EQ, the Q3 EQ. And we see what's going on here. It all looks good to me. I would normally try to low cut something here, but there is really nothing going on there. So let's find out why. Oh, because I'm actually low cutting. See? Hold on. Can you see that? See? We're losing the bass. So that sounds muddy and a little bit messy. You can clean it up by a little bit of low cutting. might as well low cut that. If you now want to find a little bit more space for your kick drum to come through the bass line, a really very quick and effective way is you go into the audio effects of Ableton Live. You get the compressor, which is a cool compressor. Let's just use stuff that is there anyways. You open that little triangle here, and then you hit sidechain, and then I think most of you know how the sidechaining compressor works. Basically, you choose an instrument that triggers your compressor, meaning it compresses, basically pushes away the sound whenever it gets a trigger signal. And we want to get the trigger signal from our kick drum. So the kick drum should push away, the moment the kick drum comes, should it push away the volume of the bass line. If you do that to an extreme extent, you're going to get some sort of like pumping effect. It's what a lot of EDM tracks have, and trance tracks. They have this pumping effect where when the kick drum comes in, the bass line goes low, and then between the kick drums, the bass line comes up again. I mean, it's a matter of taste, obviously. So Punchbox is my kick drum. So here we go. Now it's essentially doing nothing, a little bit. We'll take the threshold down a little. See the pumping effect that I was talking about? Or hear it, rather. See? We have a ratio 2:1 now. The less ratio, obviously the less it gets pushed away. You've got to find a sweet spot between this. This is now a little bit obviously too much threshold. I'd rather go for a little bit more ratio. And then we can work around with the attack and release times too. I really like, obviously, the attack tells you what transients coming through. Since it's a kick drum, we want to have the transients coming through. Meaning we want to have short attack times and short release times. Because if we do them long, not much is happening. We need to have them short. And it sounds way more punchy. Same with the release, see? If we let the compressor release its signal for a long time, it's releasing so much that it can't even keep up with the next impulse it's getting. Correct me if I'm completely saying something wrong here, but this is how my understanding of the work of a compressor is. Alright, so listen to this. So just this little compressor from Ableton Live, without, with. Question is again, do you guys hear the difference? If you do hear that difference, you already have a great listening and working environment. Just read from Luck Thorold Official. The Focusrite channel strip is on sale today for $49 with a coupon code. Hey Karajan, so nice to chill with you too. Regards back from Frankfurt back to Brussels. What would you recommend, Crumble Moop? I'm sorry, I'm literally doing like 5 things at a time. I'm just trying to get the right ratio for the compressor going while I'm reading your comments, while thinking when should I go to my refrigerator and get my beer. But the question was, what would you recommend cutting sub for a club system? There is no way to say that really, because every lower frequency in every track is composed of so many different things and influences and subharmonics that if you were to say like, oh, let's cut every track at 35 hertz, you know, because the club systems probably only go till, I don't know, 50 or 40 anyways. Now they don't. They roll off at that point. Maybe even not. If you have an amazing club system, it maybe even lets 20 dB through. That's where you are on the dance floor and your stomach is shaking. But obviously, as I said before, if you have too much low frequency going on in your track that isn't even audible, like let's say around 20-25 hertz, and it's like, that's again why you really need to look at it. You can't hear that. You really, that's where an analyzer comes in. And even if it's only the Pro Q3 from FabFilter. What am I saying? Only. This is such an incredible tool. FabFilter is anyways a really good plugin company. But only this EQ is just like, it's giving you so much information, as you can see here. Yeah? You can see the original frequency range of your sound, and obviously the green bit is still the green bit, even with yours. You see what you're doing to it. So that's helpful. But again, I wouldn't really only look for the numbers. Oh, I need to cut at 35 or at 40, and I need to cut that bass at 20 and do this there. Don't look at the numbers. Hear it. First hear it. And if you still have a problem, an issue, maybe you want to look at the numbers and you find out like, where's my issue? Because I can't find it, I can hear it. So in that case, first listening is always better than looking at numbers. That's why sometimes EQs where you don't really see the numbers are pretty helpful because they're intuitive. In this case, obviously, this is an EQ where you exactly see where you do stuff. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not that helpful. Yeah, you don't want to have too many low frequencies in your track. You could, if you do it like I do, and you have the luxury of owning a channel strip of any of those plugins, people, may it be Isotope or Plugin Alliance or anything like this, and you just throw in a channel strip. What you could do, for example, when it comes to 909s here. Do we have a 909 snare in this place? No, we don't. We have it over here. There. A 909 usually, an original 909 tends to have like really weirdly, especially with the snare in certain settings, a weird high 25 frequency range. So what you could do to clean up your mixes right away, even before you start mixing, you could like, for those tracks where you don't really think that the bass is very necessary, or let's not say think, where you're sure the bass is not really necessary, you could already take away, like, to be safe, you know, like here for example, around 40. It's gonna roll off anyways, yeah? So you're fine with 40. With a snare drum, you don't really need these frequencies down there anyways that much. And the effect is you really clean up your mix by doing that. You're not running into the issue that you have a lot of stuff running and then you look at your analyzer and everything is going mental down there in the 20, 25, 30, 40 hertz range. And then you have to try and figure out, what's the issue? Which channel is it? Sometimes it adds up from channel to channel, so you don't even find that channel that easily. So it's a good way to start to maybe even do default live set, the one you start with, and already in each channel that you open it, you already have a channel strip, or you just put an EQ in there, you know. But obviously be careful with your kick and your bass, because sometimes you do want to cut them. For example, the bass here, I don't cut it anywhere. It sounds great to me. I don't even want to cut it anywhere. I didn't use this high pass filter. I didn't use this high pass filter. I can turn them off. Not that they were in use. And yeah, so there's no high pass filters. There's no low cut going on my kick drum, which is fine. So let's get back to these two. And now now while we have it running together with the kick and the bass, we can maybe play around a little bit more saturation in the kick, depending on how heavy you want to go. Yeah, get you a beer. We'll wait. That's great. I'll let you listen to this for a little bit. Thanks again, Chris, and everyone else for the beers. That's so nice. And big greetings to Italy, too. A really good studio tip also, is do not place your beer next to your expensive gear. That even rhymes, right? So where am I going to put it? Back here. Sweet. Yeah, hi DJs and Beers family. Okay. Where shall we continue? I want to cover so many things that I'm kind of like getting confused where we should start, where we should end. Let's just continue the track. I'll just work around with it and I'll try to do what I said to you in the beginning. I'm not going to talk that much. I'm just going to show you what I'm trying to do to turn this into a somewhat listenable track within the next, let's say, 1.5 hours, and what plugins we're going to use and how to make it sound better and so on. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, is it? And you keep asking me questions in the chat while I'm trying to do this, and then I can also answer some of your questions. One thing that I need to do, I need to do that. I told you before I recorded the 303 and the 101 on one single track. I just realized, I want to have the possibility to work on the 303 independently of the bass line. So when I tried a new bass line a little bit earlier on, I already recorded one with a 101, which is down here, this thing. So let me get rid of this up here. We'll just throw it somewhere back there. We don't really need to delete it. You know, who knows? We never know if we need some sounds from somewhere again. So I'm going to record a new 303 line on top of whatever is running here. And I keep that bass that I recorded earlier. So in that means that I just going to go through one run of whatever we have here. And put this over here. Put this here. What did I do here? What did I do? I did this. So this is the bass line that I recorded. And let's just throw this everything up here. You know what? I don't even like that bass line. Let's record quickly a new one. We need the input from the Model 1, and we'll just record the bass line. Let's record a bass line. Let's go back to this one. Hit record. We're going to turn off the compressor and the EQ. And record a new bass line. Okay, I just needed to find a starting point, and I'll record it again. That's my starting point. The 303 is not mainly for acid. You can use it for nice bass lines or just simple effects. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Right now I'm just basically recording the bass line and I'm listening to whatever's running to already get my head around what could be do different, what makes more sense, because I was just quickly throwing in stuff in and out. That should do as a baseline recording. I'll duplicate that track. Kick this out. Kick the compressor out. Kick this out. And hold on, I'll show you what I'm doing here. This is what we recorded, this little thing. And I think that kind of works well. So I'll just, you know, to have a little bit of variation. I always like to have like these weird variation in tracks that kind of like come randomly, but then again, they're not really that randomly because you put them in there. But they give the track a little bit more aliveness. So let's not have a sound too static all the time. That's what effects are for. This is what automation is for. This is what you're doing with these little changes in your filter while the track is running. That gives your track a little bit more liveliness. It's not so static. It's like extremely static if you're just using a kick drum and a sound and that reoccurs. Take the time to do a little bit of automation on it and modulation with it over a period of time. So this is what I did now with the bass line, and I'm just gonna copy that over there. It's way too long anyway, so this is going through, which is fine. And now on top of that, we'll go back to this view. On top of that, I'll take down the 101, and I have the 303 here, and we're just gonna play around with the 303 on top of that thing. And so we have both tracks separate, which is exactly what I told you before that I usually do. I try to save time, but it didn't work. So back here, let's start here. With a 303, it's so much fun because I not only have the 303 cutoff, resonance, and decay to work with, I also have the electro-harmonics filter to work with. So there's a lot of stuff. And not only that, I can even put some reverb and panning effect on the 303. just added the overdrive knob. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there from the. Anyway, that one. I know my voice is a little loud at times because I have the headphones on and I'm yelling at myself. Realized I have another overdrive knob on my 303 because of the devilfish alteration. So even more to work with. So essentially what I'm trying to do is I put in a main line with the 303 and everything else builds around it. We have a solid bass line from the 101. We have a nice paddy thing from the 707. We have all these samples from oh, damn, I had a loop on. It wasn't smart. Okay, anyways, we can fix this later. Yeah, what I wanted to say was I essentially now did the main line with the 303, which sounds really nice with this little effects box here, going through the channel of the Play Differently Model 1 with its own overdrive knob. Then I have another overdrive knob right here on the Devilfish version. And all this playing together, as well as having the black hole and the panning effect going on, gives it a nice texture. Gives it a really nice texture, actually. So let's see what we got here. This is the track that I've recorded just now. And it sounds like this. Honestly, I'm a little surprised by myself how great that sounds. With the electric flanger there, Electric's Mistress Flanger. Sorry, I can't really keep up with the comments, but if you have a question, please just repeat them. Oh, by the way, a little idea that I had, because a lot of people were asking me, a lot of Germans are actually watching, and they were asking me, why don't you do this in German? So it's just a quick German thing here. Hallo Leute, ich freue mich, dass ihr zuschaut, und wenn das jetzt jemand hört, dessen Kumpel irgendwie jetzt gerade nicht eingeschaltet hat, aber die gleiche Frage hatte, dann sagt bitte Bescheid. Ich würde demnächst auch mal so einen Stream auf meiner YouTube-Plattform komplett nur in Deutsch machen. Dann können wir komplett nur Deutsch reden. Das muss jetzt hier in Englisch sein, weil das über Beatport Stream überall rausgestrahlt wird. Deswegen mache ich das in Englisch weiter. Aber ich plane demnächst mal einen komplett nur deutschen Stream. Ist das okay mit euch? Ist das okay mit euch? Und ich hoffe, dass ihr trotzdem ein bisschen Spaß habt hier dabei. Okay, I was just talking to my German friends. Sorry, guys. All right, so what do we have now? We have the kick drum, the bass line, and the 303. Let's rename it. This is the 303. Sometimes renaming stuff makes sense, you know. 101. Somebody was asking why I'm using the 101 and the 303. Because I can, I guess, because they're both here. Because they have both sonically something different to offer. They're totally different synths in a way. And I also really like the arpeggiator on the 101. There's a really amazing arpeggiator now too on the 707 with a new update 1.6, which is really incredible. Again, I really like that machine. It's just like, if you put me on an island and I was just only to pick one machine to take with me, I probably would take the MC707 with me, because it has literally everything you would need to make a whole track in that box. It's pretty nice. And I've only really touched the surface of what you can do with this thing. But let's get back to our track in order to get it somewhat finished and further on with the plugins and all the stuff that we're using. So we're back on the 101, which was this. Let's loop it a little bit here, because now we can even be a little bit more surgical when it comes to our bass line and the kick drum, because we're not affecting the 303 while doing so. So let's see what the So the fat filter EQ is just being used to it's just being used to cut up down there. Actually, I don't need it. I literally don't need it. Okay, let's not confuse you and we get rid of it. So you see the kick drum doesn't really come through the bass line. So again, the simple solution with the compressor. play around with the knobs, the ratio, the attack, see what it does. From my point of view, I don't really like pumping too much. Pumping a little bit is okay, because you need to get some space for the kick drum. As you can see, the kick drum if you want to look for numbers, has its peak, what I was kind of expecting, between 60 and 80 hertz. Funny, it's at 75. That's where its peak is. Other peaks are at 193 here, which essentially is really important for a little higher, let's say, or lower mid-range or higher bass range, for the little edginess. If you only have the 75 hertz and you have not enough of like, let's say, around 200 hertz, then you have a very soft and very warm kick drum. We're doing technos where you want to have a little harder, and I suppose those 200, 190 hertz here are coming from the black box mostly. So if I take that off, wow, the black box is such a huge difference on the kick drum. Isn't that insane? And it's literally the same volume, guys. That is the same volume. Pablo Gomez, you alternate the bass line, the 303 with 101. Why not only the 303? I'm not alternating. I have both running at the same time right now. You might have missed that part. Yeah, so that's how my kick drum looks. I just wanted to visualize this. So let's go back to the 101. With compressor, without compression, sidechain compressing, I would better say. With, you already see it sits more in the bass. The bass forms around the kick drum. You could say it's already glued together, but there's more stuff we can do with it to glue it together. So let's do more stuff with it. What I'm doing is I'm going to group these two now. So essentially what I'm doing, I'm sending them to a bus, but I'm creating the bus by grouping those two tracks. So here we go. This is now kick and bass together, although I still have them individually. I grouped them into one channel. So if I turn off that channel, both of these things, kick drum and 101, punch box equals kick drum, is now the kick and bass grouped together. So in a way you could say this is my kick and bass bus, which I can again now work on. So if you only have Ableton Live and those effects, there's a really cool glue compressor. Listen to this one. See the glue compressor here? Bit threshold, a little bit makeup. Again, we can play around with the attack and the release here. We could sidechain that too. The glue compressor is a bit of a different kind of compressor. And you, as the name says, you actually glue it more together. But again, I'm a little too loud, so don't let the volume fool you. But also, always remember and realize that the more compression you're using, the less dynamics you will have in your track, and everything will start to sound a little bit more flat and flat and flat and flat. So before I would use some compression, I would maybe try and let's try something. Let's play around with it. Let's try and we don't want to really change the sound of the kick drum too much. Let me see. We could put another black box on there and just separate it even a little bit more together. All right, anybody hears this difference? Nice. I like that better than the glue compressor. So in that case, which doesn't mean it's better, it's just different for now. All right, 303. What did we do here? We have a little bit high pass filter on there, which is good. We could also use the compressor here a little bit. Sometimes I like to compress the 303 line a little bit because it's extremely dynamic, and sometimes you're losing a little bit the lower grunginess. You call it maybe grunginess, and in order to bring the grunginess up a little and the high bits, which I'm sometimes getting a little out of control up there, which can be nice, we push them down a little bit. So just slight compression on this actually works wonders to have a little bit more even feeling about it. And obviously, since I love it so much right now, let's try this Better Maker. Ooh. Let's listen it together with the rest. We're very loud, I see. Very, very loud. So let's take that a little down. All right. Since I have recorded this whole 303 line in one go, it kind of already gives us an idea of how to arrange things. And even if when you're recording something like that, I didn't really think about an arrangement while I was recording. I was just going with it and did changes that feels natural, that kind of like, oh, that's nice if I do this, if I do this. And again, there you don't really have to think so much about your arrangement, because only this little bit of recording kind of like shows me the way of where to go. So let's listen with everything we have right now, and that would be my next step, essentially. I got the kick and the bass and the main parts sort of sorted out right now. You don't want to overwork it, because you might, and you probably most likely will, change stuff around during the following hours. So you just get it to a point where you're happy with, and later on you're going to tweak the kick drum even more and kick drum even more, and the tweaking becomes more and more defined and refined until you get to a point in the end where you have a final finished mixed track. And ultimately this is happening while you're actually arranging it, but we're not really arranging it. I mean, we already have like kind of a 7-8 minute recording here, which maybe already works as an arrangement, and I just have to see where I'm going to cut the kick, and what stuff is coming in, what do I like, what do I don't like. And not to forget, we have all the second part here, the recordings from last week, which at some points might even be nicer than the rushed, I would say rather rushed recordings from this week. See, this is the last week recording of the hi-hat. This is the this week recording of the hi-hat. So you can always fall back on stuff that you've done before. All right, let's see what we have. This is really cool. This is the sound from the 707, already recorded with a delay and a reverb from the 707. Another little great thing is that if you record stuff already with some reverb and delay, you already have a lively sounding sound. And even if it's a different delay and different delay times and different reverb times, if it works with your overall delay that you're gonna put on different tracks later on, you know, it doesn't necessarily, like it's maybe a really nice thing too. You know, it adds to the whole sonic experience. Because not everything is only coming out of one reverb. You know, you have different ideas of reverb, different little things. Just, you know, there's no rules to it. Whatever sounds good to you, you should go for it. All right, what do we have here? That's a great sound, and I think because we recorded the 707 also in one go with all the samples and everything, I might cut it up and loop it later. So let's see what's happening. Sounds like a pretty good beginning to me. Let's see what happens now. What did we do next? I don't remember. Oh, a clap. Not too sure about the clap here. So let's turn the clap off for now. Oh, there we go. That's where... Let's just continue that sound from the MC707. And if we want, we add later on the samples. I'm gonna put a fat filter EQ. I'm not trying to use too many different plugins right now to completely confuse the hell out of everyone, including myself. And I really like to use that EQ sometimes for just filtering stuff down. Yeah, you see here the gain. Obviously, I'm too loud again. So, what is too loud here? Let's find out. I do believe we're way too loud here. So let's just turn it down. Oh, not that one. Why are we still too loud? Oh, hold on. Ha, that's a good example. That cool sound from the MC707 has a lot of low end. We don't need that low end down here, so let's get rid of it. This is it's exactly what I mean. It's like you're taking away the energy from the kick and the bass with a sound that doesn't necessarily need the bass. So let's listen to it like this. With loads of rumble, we don't like that. I recorded this from the analog rhythm, as you can see, but I don't really want, I want to have this beep beep separate, and this is why I'm just going to take it like this, and everything that comes here we didn't do any automation or modulation on this anyway, so we'll just completely get rid of this bit. And we didn't use the beep here, right? No. I remember we used these little, whatever they are, congas. So let's use this conga loop. Hold on. Duplicate that too. We use this little conga loop down here. So, and we have this loop. So we've just managed to separate the 3 sounds that come from the analog rhythm, because there was nothing going on with them anyway, so I didn't really put them through any effects, I didn't modulate them, I didn't automate them. Some of you don't like the beep, right? I kind of like that beep. If it comes in at the right time, maybe. The slight flanger on the hi-hat, yes, of course. Give me some tips here. I'm following. Yeah. The hi-hats and everything that comes from the 909 essentially will go through a high-pass filter, because we don't need any of the low end. Yeah. And the hi-hat is way too loud. I agree. I absolutely agree. So, but the good thing is, that's the quick way to do this is I just consolidate these little thingies, and this way I don't need to mess around with finding the loop points in order to loop it. I can just loop it, the whole thing, and look at that. Oops. Why is it so slow? Why is this not working? Oh, I didn't hit loop here. Now it's looped, and I can basically loop this. What's going on with my mouse? Why is this so slow? Let's give this a different color. For those who are watching, I'll give it the color red. You're gonna get the color purple. That's great. Something is going on here. Same here. I just loop this because I consolidated it before. This is our beep. I'll give the beep color green, which it was. And what was this again? What was this again? Oh yeah, another hi-hat. So it's the analog rhythm hat. Let's call it that way. And this here is our lovely analog rhythm beep, AR beep. And then we have, I kind of like this little bongo conga loop in the background. It just gives it some sort of little rumble in the background, and we can work this out a little later. And it comes in a frequency range where we don't really have much going on anyway, so it fills in some spots. So what is it? Let's call it a conga loop. I'm really bad at naming things, or it's actually quite funny sometimes. All right, so we've divided the analog rhythm into different parts, and we can still figure out when they should come in without needing to record them multiple times. Put them way back there. These were 2 MIDI tracks that I just deleted. We don't need them anymore. I used them last week for the Moog and the 101. Okay, the hi-hat. Let's take care of the hi-hat. What is the hi-hat doing? Again, let's get rid of this. Maybe compress it a little bit. It's an old machine. Sorry. Beer. And I mean, it's sometimes going in the red in our master, but this is still cool. We can stay there. Alright, let's work on this one. Dig out a little bit the higher frequencies of this thing. Maybe 2K. Totally exaggerated and find out which one we only use. Oh, that's a nice frequency there. Sounding nice. Really like that one. And I think it does deserve another black box on top of it. Oh, that was the wrong black box. I need to go here. Let's see. Without the beta maker. I really love that plugin. Yep, my beer is still here. Without? With. Of course it's louder, I know. So let's not be fooled by the volume, like I said. Nice. You want to have these like little high frequency brittles coming through. And here we could use a little bit of high pass frequency. You see it on the right hand corner when I move this over there, like you see the number 23, 24. That's the hertz. Coming up. Nice. Let's see what this EQ would do. Give it a little bit more griddle, even around 200. Obviously much louder. So again, turning it off, checking my volume, turning it on again. It's still too loud. Normally I would EQ before I compress, but since the compressor is just slightly used in the console first plugin, it's fine. Like normally you would EQ a signal before you compress it, but then again, nobody makes those rules really. Or there's people maybe making those rules, but nobody's enforcing them, right? So that sounds cool to me. That's without the better maker. That's with it. Without the black box. With it. Let's see if this can be done better. There's like nothing on the black box. Even more saturation. It's all. Whoa! That's already quite a saturated sound. So maybe not too much saturation, and I'm not sure if that's not overdone with this black box. Let's find out. Wow. Wow. What? I mean, I know that this black box thing is a really, really, really cool thing, but I think it works not only as a saturation unit. It feels like it also compresses the signal in a way. It makes it denser. It's extremely good on everything. Like lately, my favorite duo, these two combined with each other. Wow. So yeah, but listen to it here. Listen. Like black box on, black box off. While the peaks, bing, bing, bing. Yeah, the high peaks you hear, bing, bing, bing. Is actually. It's not louder. It's literally not louder, I tell you. Of course, it's more voluminous. You can say that. And maybe too much, but we'll find it out in the mix. So, mixing it without the black box, I know we're too loud in the master, but not too much too loud. Black box on. Get back to the hi-hat. Maybe that's a little bit too much, whatever it is. For the higher frequencies. Back to the pad filter. Let's use an EQ3 right here because... Actually, can you guys hear me while I'm talking when all of this is running? Yeah, we're going to introduce some rides. I have rides going on. We'll just go step by step by step. Yeah, great. So, because I think the 303 takes away, because we did so much to it with the flanger and with the effects and everything, it takes away quite a lot of frequency range in this track. So it fills it up quite heavily, and we don't maybe want that all the time. So how about I'm gonna do some dynamic EQing in the mid-range, lower mid-range of this 303, so it's not going too wild against the frequencies of the kick and the bass that's running. So maybe, you see that? Maybe just around here. Take things down a little. And we could maybe even make it dynamic. Dynamic means the louder the signal is, the more it's going to take away from the signal. Which also Yeah, we're talking about the panning too, but taking this away with a dynamic EQ also adds a little bit more dynamics. I just realized it's called a dynamic EQ. Maybe that's why it's called a dynamic EQ. See, I'm new to this as much as you are. What difference do some years make in doing this? Yeah, panning the percussions. I can show you in a little bit. Funny enough, my 909 has a panning built in a way. I think because it's so old, everything seems to be hanging more towards the right, especially the ride and the hi-hat. But when we talk about panning stuff and what needs to be in the middle and what needs to come in the front, a great explanation is usually try to imagine. Of course, we're making techno. We're not like a rock band, but try to imagine a group on the stage. So the singer is standing in the middle and he's singing, and obviously he's singing into the room. So there's a lot of reverb on his voice and everything. So it fills out the room. But the singer is still standing in the middle of the stage. He's not standing on the right or the left. Sometimes he's running there, obviously, but usually he's standing in the middle. So you want to have the vocal in the middle, which is the main part. If it's an instrumental track, you may want to have the main sound. If that was played from a stage, it would be probably played from the middle of the stage. So you have that in the middle. The drum set is usually behind the singer, so it's also in the middle of the stage. So you have all the drumming coming from the middle, but you have the rides and the hi-hats sort of on the left and right side of the drummer. So in that way, you could already think like, all right, I'll pan my hi-hat a tiny bit to the right, and maybe I'll pan my ride a little bit to the left. And see how that works. Maybe I pan both to the right because the drummer has his kit in a way that all the high-end stuff and the crash is on the right-hand side and all the toms are on the left-hand side. And he plays like this or like this, So think about it this way, because this is natural for us. And things usually sound stupid if they come unnatural. Or they sound great because they come unnatural. Again, there's no rules. It's just like whatever you feel like you do. What I would try to avoid is like panning your hi-hats and your rides like completely to the left or completely to the right. That makes not much sense, because in a club environment, especially if you produce music for a club, you don't really have a stereo. I mean, clubs have stereo systems, of course, but on the dance floor, I mean, wouldn't you be thrown off? You're dancing on the dance floor. You're kind of like facing towards the DJ, but you only hear the hi-hat only on the right side. It would be weird, right? So maybe you don't want to do that unless it's part of your thing and it makes sense for you. But for me, it wouldn't make so much sense. So I try to keep things a little bit in the middle and just try to give them a little bit of a more stereo boost in the end. Panning it a little bit here, a little bit there, but then also going on there, and this is what we can get into some of the sounds too here now, can get more into like enhancing the stereo image of a sound. We did this already with a 303 because it goes through a flanger, so that automatically gives it this layers, which is not completely mono anymore. Did I answer your question? A good idea in the studio is also. Oh, there was another question which I could talk about. Is like that was not only about the speakers and your room. It was also about like what do you do in the studio, and sometimes it's good to take the headphones off and take a little break. Ask the friendly people of Twitch and Beatport if I can extend this one half an hour, because we're already like 20 minutes before the end. And again, I was talking so much in the beginning. I'm so sorry about that. Again, I'm also new to this. I'm learning this while I'm doing this with you guys. As I told you last time, we do the DJs and beers shows on Thursdays. And there you have 3, 4, 5 other people that you chat with. You don't have to worry about anything else, not sound levels or anything. When I do my Alone Together streams, I'm just playing music. Well, I control my fog machine, my strobe, my beamer, my visuals, and obviously the sound that goes outside, and I choose the tracks to play. But I'm not talking at the same time, and I'm not trying to answer questions. I'm reading your comments, but and I'm trying to interact as much as I can, but the focus is on playing the music. So this here now is a whole different ball game. It's like you're trying to make music while explaining what you're doing. So you're playing music while music is running. So first of all, you don't know if you guys can even hear me talking while things are running. So I have to always check my levels while thinking about what I want to do next. And that's why my explanation is just not an excuse, it's just an explanation, while sometimes things are a little bit chaotic and out of control. I really need to watch more of those streams that other people do, maybe Carl Geiger or Speedy J or Drumcell. Drumcell does a really cool Twitch stream on Saturdays, and I'm sure he's not so all over the place like I am. And it's really, really cool if you guys could tell me in the chats. For some reason, I hope only my stream just died. I don't really see anything happening on Twitch right now. Where was I? Yeah, all over the place. Exactly. There, I'm back. Somehow that's why I hope you just give me some comments what things I can do better and whatever. Anyways, taking breaks is also very important. Like give your ears a little bit of a break. Maybe listen to some other music. Maybe roll back, have a beer, just like we do. And think about something else. And if you're really working long, and especially if you're mixing, take breaks every 2 hours, go outside, get some fresh air, and listen to something different too. It's like you get so stuck into one thing that you sometimes lose your overview. And then if it gets late at night and you I don't know, might be smoking a joint and drinking a beer, the surprise next morning sometimes can be very tough. When you listen back to what you're doing, like, what did I do this? What the hell is going on? So take your breaks. But we don't have any time to waste, so let's continue our work here. Colin Benders. Yeah, Colin Benders does some really nice streams on Twitch. Yeah, and I know I'm in touch with Colin. Colin is the absolute super master when it comes to the modular walls. Like I've had the luck to play with him, I think 3 or 4 times already on festivals. Back in the days when there were festivals, remember these days? And his modular setup is so insanely great. He's such a genius when it comes to this. I've never really seen anyone so good at modular setups. You should definitely check him out when this is done, not now. Ja, in den Wald gehen und abschalten ist auch gut. By the way, where's my phone? See, I didn't even have my phone with me here. Maybe I have some messages from Beatport. Thanks, Johan. I've noticed that with the purple highlighting. Oh, Justin is watching too. Hey, Justin. Okay. By the way, I've done some mixing sessions for my album. Online, obviously, with a label. And that was one of my notes. What a question! Of course, always the kick half a dB louder. Let's continue, right? Shall we? We were at the 303 and I took out the little bit of this frequency here. It's again around like, let's say 80, let's maybe turn it down a little bit to 70. It's between 50 and 80 where a kick drum has the main part. Maybe it's good not to have too much stuff down there. And this is what I'm talking about when I say you can have a lot of bass running, but manage it in a good way. Everything needs to have its space, and then they come together and it starts to sound like one thing. It doesn't happen from one moment to the other. There's loads of steps happening, but for now this sounds good to me, so we leave it like this. And as you might have noticed, I'm not yet working with any effects. I have like reverb and delays that I can do on my return channels. I haven't even started using those. Hi-hat. Let's get back to the hi-hat. What can we do to make the hi-hat nicer? Let's check some Universal Audio plugins. How about the Cooper Time Cube? What does it do? What does it do? I put it on and it already sounds funky. See, you don't really have to do anything. Interesting. That's a little bit too much. You know, I would love to I like that. I kind of like that. Yet I would love to have a little bit more control of it with a dry and wet idea. So let's do a return track, and I'll put, where am I? Hold on, hi-hat here. I'll put the UAD Cooper Time Cube on my return channel, and then I'm sending this to the return channel, right? And then we have wet solo, so we only get the wet signal because it's a return channel. We don't want to double up our original dry signal. And not only can we send the hi-hat through there, and you hear the difference, yeah? You can control it a little bit better. The delay times are pretty short, I assume. You have 14 and 16 milliseconds, which is cool because we don't really want to have a delay going on. We just want to have, oh, could a little bit decay. We just want to have an additional effect. And what it does, it kind of doubles up our hi-hat. The hi-hat is very central. Let's see how it sounds together with it. So yeah, I would maybe only pan it like a little bit to the right. Just a tiny little bit, just to give it a little bit of space. And then see what we can do here. Even smaller delay times. Oh, you don't see the screen. See, I'm doing this again still. Here we go. Now you see the screen. Sorry. Sorry, I had to put up the key all the time. Thanks for telling me. So you see the screen now again. Sorry, I didn't show you the screen. So I put the Cooper Time Cube basically on a return channel down here, so I can send the signal via send and obviously return to the Cooper Time Cube, because I don't, on this machine I don't have a dry wet knob. I only have a completely wet solo knob here. Bang, bang, bang. That one. And this way I can control it much better. Yeah, I know I forgot to change the camera, but there is like quite a delay now in the broadcasting, so that's why I still see myself not putting it up. Anyways, let's continue this. The broadcast will catch up. I'm changing a little bit the milliseconds, and then we see what it does to us. Oh, look at that. See, that's what I mean. It kind of like feels unnatural to me. If the hi-hat would sound like this, it would be kind of all over the place, wouldn't it? So let's catch it a little bit. Without the UAD Cooper time cube, which is essentially a delay unit. And with it, I think that sounds quite nice. We can leave it like this for now. And the great thing with this setting now is we have the ride going on, which is a little bit of a weird ride going on, but we can also send it to the Cooper time cube now. Alright. Working a little bit on the volumes of those random toms that are coming in whenever they come in. And we also have a rim shot. I'm gonna get the rim shot from last week in there. I like that rim shot. And we did actually record something with the Sub 37. I can delete that stuff. Let's see if our ride from last week sounds somehow better or worse. I don't know what I did, but I like that ride better. So let's stick to this one from last week. And we leave as it is. Interesting. I'm reading your comments. By the way, I'm sorry, Beatport. Johan, can I continue for another half an hour maybe? Is that possible? Because I was just talking way too much again, or do you have any other things scheduled going on? We can go over 40 minutes extra. All right, let's do this. Let's set out a time for 40 minutes and we have a track done. So the thing is, recording the 303, you see I do make like these weird stupid mistakes myself. I've recorded it with I was just getting out of it, with way too much reverb. So it covers everything else in the track. It sounds super messy. So how do we get rid of reverb? There is a plugin for that, I believe. There is a plugin for this, and it comes from Isotope, and it's called maybe RX7D Reverb. Shall we try this? Yeah. There was another question. What stage would you check mono compatibility? Not at that stage, actually, because there's everything is still running more or less in mono. Maybe at the very end, I would maybe see you want to try and stick to your mono mixing and your mono stuff. I mean, obviously you have sounds in there that are stereo. You leave them alone, that are stereo sounds. But everything that is mono, you want to stick to mono for now. And mix it in mono. The getting into the stereo image later on is the cherry on the cake. It's just like later on you can choose what you want to get a little bit more of stereo, and then you can switch back and forth if it's still compatible to mono or not. But let's try and find out what the RXD reverb, let's hope I even have that. Yeah, I do. Can help us cleaning up our 303. Otherwise I have to record it one more time. Ooh, whoa, whoa. I've never really used that plugin, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing. Yeah, gives us a little bit more. It's nice. You can control the hits, highs and mid-highs. Clean a little bit up in the low end. Maybe that helps a little. Let's see. Maybe we need to record it new without so much delay reverb on it. Huh, what is this? Where do we have this from? I don't even remember that. When did we record this? That's funny. I don't even remember we recorded this, but it sounds pretty good in the background. Although I believe we have this beat. We don't need this extra. Loop is doing for us. You know what? I might be recording the 303 line again. But let's first get to a point where we have like sort of like, I don't know, 7 minutes running in a coherent manner, and then at the end I'll add the 303 line without so much reverb, because the reverb is like kind of really covering everything. It was sounding so nice as a solo thing, but it's way too much, I think, on this recording. So where are we at? Let's listen to it again. I just basically muted the clap and the 303 now. It's always a good thing, you know. Sometimes you want to know, does my track really still function if my main lead line is not running anymore? That's a good way to judge where you're at with your instrumental, let's so to speak. Or if you have your track running with your main lead line and you just turn off all your rides and hats and everything that's going on, it still should be interesting. The track should still be interesting. The track should still be like, oh, it's very minimal, you know. So anything you add now is just like the spices that you're adding. But the dish is actually done. It's just makes it a little bit nicer maybe, you know. But sometimes maybe you want to just eat it without any spices, and then you just get rid of your rides or and your claps and your crashes and your snares, and you just have a slight little hi-hat going on in the background. But that is exactly the right hi-hat. Then we have a lot of stuff going on. I have to admit, we have way too much stuff going on so far. Hey Taylor River 85, I'm learning doing this. I don't really have much other things to do. No, I don't. I do, but I really like doing this. So maybe, yes, I'll probably continue doing this on my YouTube channel. Und wie ich gesagt habe, auch vielleicht dann auf Deutsch komplett mal eine ganze Zeit lang. So yeah, 40 minutes is the best we can do. So that's why we have another half an hour. We hurry up. And again, I have to say thanks to Beatport. Without them, I wouldn't have forced myself setting all this up, doing something like this. And it's a lot of fun doing this. So Beatport, thanks for having me. And they're going to have, I'm sure, way more capable people coming up in this studio sessions series that maybe do this a little bit more in a coherent manner. All right, what do we have without the 303? The conga loop is maybe a little too loud. Maybe it's not too loud. Maybe I'll need to just filter it a little down. You know, just give it a little groove down below. See, this is really not much going on, but it's really effective, right? There's a bass line, there's the sound from the MC707. Our hi-hat sets in, which is going through the time tube, so it has a little bit of a different, maybe too loud, a different sound to it. That sounds good to me. Maybe we should get the low tom coming in here at some point. Tom coming in at some point. That analog rhythm hat sounds fine. How does it sound when we push it to the time cube? That's too much. We don't do that. Sure what the bass line is doing up there. I'm not sure if I like that. So we just loop the bass line. Because some things need to be stable and just keep going, you know, sometimes. So you don't want to have too much automation going on in the background. It's just throwing you off. You have to concentrate on one thing. let's stick to the 101, just doing this. That's good enough. We need a clap, but I don't like that clap. What do we do? What do we do? We will get a clap from a different from a different project. I did a remix on the weekend for a really interesting artist, and let me find that remix. Why? What's going on here? Where's my remix? What was the remix called? I don't remember. And it's there's a really cool clap that I've made for this remix. Basically, let's just use this again, because who says you cannot? Oh, here we go. Who says you cannot? Live stream is the track, actually. If you want to hear it a little bit, can you hear it? Can you? Somehow I have an output here. Anyways, where's my clap? Here's the clap. So who says you cannot reuse stuff that you've used before? So I'm just gonna get that clap in and listen to this clap. I think it's a great clap. I'm not sure why we have this. Of course it works, because that's the only thing I can do, claps and kicks, right? So they have to work together. I like that clap. Tuboraton is asking, do you often make use of the time locators as a guide to bring in certain elements, or do you mostly work as whatever seems to work at a certain timing? You know, that's a good question, because I've used to not really worry or take care about the timing things up there at all, which is fun because you do it after how you feel like when things are coming in. But then again, when you DJ, and it's sometimes really nice when you know after like, I don't know, 16 bars, the hi-hat is coming in. And that's why and it's kind of also a natural thing, you know, you kind of like feel like maybe after like 32 bars, now something should be happening. So why not using the time signature? Why not work after that? I did it here a little bit now too. Like, just look at my great wrong example. My hi-hat is coming in at some point, but I wanted to get it in at like the locator 33, because that's a good moment to bring out hi-hat in. The low tom is actually coming in at 33, so maybe let's get the high end in, maybe get the low tom in at 17, so something is happening there. You can do this if it sounds okay for you, but again, I wouldn't really only look after numbers, just do it how it feels like. Still have nothing on the master bus. I kind of like these toms in the background. They give you a little bit of a groove, you know. It's kind of this dark sound in there. And I think the 303, we need to record it in a more minimal manner. Hi-hat is coming in. Turn it a little bit up. And obviously we have way more sounds, because we still have so much recorded from the MC707. Let's find them, those bits. What do you have here? Huh, I have a better idea. We do another recording round. And we record the 707 and the 303 at the same time. See if the clap maybe sounds better if we transpose it down for. Pitch it down a little bit, turn it down a little bit in the volume. Sits in there much better. Play around with the tuning, it's always important. I don't know, maybe we needed to have a break at some point. Get rid of the kick drum for a little bit. Randomly saying this much. Let's start the high tone. And I remember I still have something else coming from analog rhythm which we haven't used at all. So analog rhythm is on 3 and 4 inputs. Ha! What is this? Great! Look at that, it's the sub 37. For some funny reason just sitting at the right spot. It's the right spot. It wasn't planned that way. And beat goes in with it. Fine. Good. Fine with me. Move this a little bit further over there. Again, this is like, you know, these are maybe happy accidents, but again, it's maybe not that accidental because you recorded it at some point and it's there for some reason that you put in there. But it's what you should go with, you know? It's just like, oh, that works. Let's just fine, leave it in there. Just don't be too strict in what path you want to go. If that sounds fine, it sounds fine. And we're still at the really rough spot here. This is really raw mixing still. You're just throwing ideas. You know, maybe there's 2 breaks later on. Maybe you move around sounds. Maybe you change the sound completely again. But that's kind of how you progress. Like if you're producing in this kind of way, everything comes together from all sorts of sides, and it maybe looks like quite chaotic, but it literally comes together at some point. That's why it's nice we have another half an hour, because I want to record the 303, the 707, and I want to see I have another sound here somewhere on that beautiful analog rhythm that we might be able to use. But I completely forgot the 707, this really nice pad that we have there, and we still have some of our Stigmata samples on there that I want to use. So 707 recording track, 303 recording track, and we'll hit record and to do this. Yet at the same time I want to see what did we have here? I have this sound. I'm back at that thing now. Okay, it sounds like somebody's farting. No, not a good sound. Alright. Let's leave this out. Beat going too long because some of you don't like it, right? We'll just get it in back there again. Kind of looks to me as we could use a little break here maybe again. You know, it's just guessing around. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we just put the clap in once the kick comes back in. the 303 is not even in there. Move this over there. Snare, we have the snare here. It's amazing, look at that. Pretty good sounding snare-ish thing. We maybe want to have that here again. So we just copy it over there. I'm trying to work a little faster now. What is this here? What is going on here? Huh, interesting. I didn't know that. Little delay on the clap maybe? Why not? Let's put a little delay on the clap. You know, I like to have, do we have a delay? Yeah, here we have a delay. That's great. I like to have, I like that H delay from, oh, you can't see that. Again, the H delay from Waves is, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to switch to the other screen. The H delay from Waves is actually golden and not blue. So again, the colors are completely confused on my stream. Peter, the headphones I'm using are Audis LCD X1, I believe they're called. Audis LCD X1. Yeah, the H delay is actually not blue. I have no clue why I have this weird color thing going on. All right, before our time runs out, we need to record this now. So the clap, what's the idea of putting a... Yeah, maybe it would be better with a little bit shorter delay. Anyways. Definitely too loud, the hands. Alright, so let's record some 303. And the other thing. We have this running. I'll switch over to this view again. Get myself out of there and let's do this. Hit record and we play. All right, let's do a little less reverb on this thing. Muted the track so I can't hear them, which was stupid. So let's do this again under record, of course. Questions were why I'm slower in BPM than compared to, let's say, the 2000s. Because it's boring to stick at the same BPM over a course of 20-25 years. It's really boring. And the higher the BPM, the less space there is. The higher the BPM, the less space there is between the kick drums. If there's less space between the kick drums, because the BPM is higher, there's obviously less stuff you can do in between the kick drums. So the higher the BPM, the more it's just getting only kick drum and only full on. And, you know, I found that the slower BPM, you have a little bit more space between the kick drums to put a bit more vibe in there. I kind of like that. I don't mind higher tempos. There's like really reduced higher tempo techno music, especially let's say DVS1 and stuff like this is amazing. I'm pretty comfortable right now between let's say 125 and 135 BPMs in what I play and what I do. It's really cool tempo. But 140, 145, you know, it's kind of a special different thing again. I'm not too sure about this. So let's record this because we're running out of time here. Let's do this. And I want to come to sort of an end, right? Let's record. I hope I still remember what I'm doing on the 707 here, but I'll find out. We have this nice little pad in the background here. Yeah, the drony pad is really nice. I think so too. We also have, I wish I had separate outputs on the 707. You can have, but it's a whole different story. With USB as well, but I would have need a dedicated USB plug on my computer, which I don't have right now. You know, you gotta work with what you have. You gotta make it work somehow. So right now I'm just working the pad. I'm leaving the stigmata samples for another round. Now we're getting towards a break, I believe. The 303 didn't sound like I wanted it to sound somehow. Not sure what I did. interesting ending, isn't it? I am not entirely sure what's going on. I guess we have another 10 minutes. Huh. I'm not entirely sure what was going on with the 303. For some reason, maybe the only explanation I have, do we have some sort of compressor on here? Ah! I've had it run through the RxD reverbing module. That wasn't smart. So I have no idea what I did now with it. So that must be way too loud. Anyways. All right. We almost, you know, we almost have a track. Obviously, that is a really raw track. But let me use the last 9 minutes that we have on here to show you a little bit what we could do now with the sound of it. I mean, the MC707 sounds fine in the way it's in there. Obviously, we could move around the beep here a little bit if we wanted to have the beep in there. The conga loop is running through. The kick is fine. The 303 was sadly recorded through. It wasn't recorded through. I have the recording is raw. I just had another plugin on there. That's why I wasn't hearing it right while I was working it. So I'm not sure how it works. Could work, couldn't work. I don't know. But anyways, we have something that sort of resembles a track, yeah? And now I would maybe go through each individual channel, check if it sounds all right, maybe pan it a little bit, work on each individual sound a little bit mixing-wise, obviously, to make it better. But most of the stuff is already actually being done during the production process, obviously, because you're obviously not working with really crappy sounding stuff and then putting it together and then trying to make them sound good. They already should sound quite good. And then you make them sound even better. And then I would normally, what I do, this would be a version number 1 for me now. And I would now go on the master, and so I could listen to it when I'm running, you know, on my headphones and get ideas of what to do different. But I would already go in the master and make it loud and make it sound fat. So we have another 8 minutes. Do we have another 8 minutes? Do we have another 8 minutes, or is it 10:40 or 10:30 that we have to stop, Johan? Please let me know. Because yeah, so till 22, so we have another 7 minutes. So let's do this. Let's go in the master and see what we can do. First, there's really so much headroom. Oh, I was such a good boy, and yeah, 10:45 is good. Great. We even got a little bit more. So now we can go crazy on the mixing, on the master bus. So let's see what we can do. What kind of plugins do I have? Let's go to plug in the lines again. We have this cool master EQ here. Clean out a little bit the low end. Not entirely sure if we need to. We still do. 1040, yes, thank you. Let's get some high end in. Oh no, that's the output. There is a nice little compressor that I sometimes like to use. Let's try that one. Right behind this, and that is this thing here. The VSC2, you have the same plugin on your UAD and you just use it slightly. You put in the sidechain filter on 90 Hertz, so you don't really affect the lower part too much. It still keeps the big rumble in there, but it gives it a little kind of a nice feel to it. Let's see what we can do. Again, I'm working with, like, in this case, longer attack times and shorter release times. Don't ask me why, I'll just do this. Ratio maybe only 2. And then I just hit the threshold just like a teeny tiny bit, or you only see it goes up till 2. So if I turn off the EQ that we used, a little bit high end, a little bit low end adding, and if I turn the vertigo off, it's obviously much louder because I need to. Without? With. It gives it a little bit of a groove, you know? Gives it a little bit of a groove. Our Pro L limiter is heavily limiting already, which I don't really mind that much. But a good trick to not have one limiter heavily limiting is use multiple limiters, and you have multiple limiters limiting a little bit, which ultimately gives you a little bit more headroom and less wool. So what other limiter could we use that has a little bit of a different characteristics? What would be there? Let me think. Maybe we'll use the precision limiter. I haven't used that in a very, very long time. Where is it? Where is the precision limiter? There we go. And we put the limiter before the EQ. How about that? Why not? Let's try it. Where is it? Hello? Let's put it after the EQ. Let's put them together like this. Whoa, that sounds good. Another thing we could do is with a group, not the 303, the twin tube. I love the twin tube. Let's just get it in there. Let's get some crazy harmonics going, a little bit more saturation even. Great, and on the kick I'd like to have a little bit more control over my transients, so I go into plugin alliance. Can you still hear me? Yeah, I know, I can go a little longer. That's why I'm like, yeah, I'm flying here to my SPL Transient Designer Plus. Let's see what that does to our take kick. Hear the difference? What a nice plugin. Question is now, what would happen if I put it on the group? Nah, maybe just on the kick. Again. Ooh, whoa, whoa. We're limiting quite a bit here. That's way too heavily compressed. You know, on that on that Vertigo thing here, the quad discrete VCA compressor, VSC2 from Brainworks, emulated from Brainworks. You should, like, if you use it on a master, it should just slightly move this little thing. It should just slightly move. Essentially like that. So we have a lot of limiting going on and compression on the master. I'm still not happy with the overall. It sounds still a little bit dull, doesn't it, overall? Maybe we need a little bit of stereo going on here. Maybe with this sound. A little bit more? No, we need to find another sound. How about this one? And there is this little thing from Plugin Alliance called, I'm not sure if it makes sense now, but it's called Stereo Maker. Stereo Maker goes on the 303. Hear that? Hear this, guys? Chris, what is better, drum or melodies on the front of the track? If you're talking about Pablo Gomez, if you're talking about techno, I'd definitely say drums. Unless you're doing melodic techno. The remix I did over the weekend is pretty much melodic techno. But although there I would say the drums are in the foreground. Let's see how... You know, by stereo making that 303 sound a little bit more over there, you place it a little bit further away and therefore give the things in the middle a little bit more room, and it's not everything at the same place. Like, think of it in 3D, you know? This should be there, this should be there, this should be there, the main thing should be in the middle. And most important, we'll make the kick half dB louder. Maybe even 2 dBs, like this. Yes. I'm not too sure about this one, to be honest. Maybe a little bit too much going on here. Everyone, and turning it down a little bit so you can hear me. Obviously this is really raw, really rough, but we have some elements together. You could refine them. You could think of something else to put on top, even another 303 line on a higher octave to have a little bit of more another sound going on to make it more interesting. Obviously there's way too much rides and hi-hats at some points, and it's way too full, so thinning things out would be the next step. But it would already be a first version, which, I mean, I wouldn't really test it out in a club yet, because that's before the stage of testing it out in a club. But it is giving you a pretty good idea of where you can take this, you know, as a truly techno track in a way. Even with, you know, you can start fiddling out. Did we start a stigmata sample? The stigmata samples, and I ended up not using any of them really in this whole track now. So maybe I should look into this again. I was talking too much while I was doing things, so kind of we got them out of sight. Maybe they don't fit in there at all anymore, and that when it comes back to where are we here? And hold on, that's the wrong one. That's the right one. And maybe that is I've gone robotic. What does that mean? You guys can't hear me anymore? You should be able to hear me, right? Okay, anyways, it's a rough take, and there's so much more you can do with it. What I said, we started out with stigmata loops. It ended up not having any stigmata loops in it right now. So again, you should be always happy to let go of ideas and keep on moving. But we could try them out if we had more time. Try them out, thin the track out, making it sound better, more coherent, get the moments there better. You know, if you take a little bit more time recording each line, you automatically get there. So yeah, that's it. So my audio went all bit redux and FX over a few seconds. Interesting. Maybe the ghosts are back, because somehow my sync was working this time. Maybe it's just getting too warm in this room, and and you can re-watch this on Beatports and my YouTube channel maybe in 2-3 days, and it will be on there without a robotic voice, because I recorded it here. Well, so everyone, first of all, Beatport, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope it was not too quite chaotic for you guys. Everyone who's watching over the whole thing, thank you so much. I'm hoping you can hear me again. Ich mache definitiv irgendwann sowas in Deutsch auf meinem YouTube-Channel. Also sehr gerne mache ich. Sage ich euch Bescheid. And for everyone else, stick to the Beatport channel. There's something else coming up now. Just stay in there and work on music. Just do it. You can't go wrong. It maybe sounds messy, but as long as you're having fun, that's the most important thing. Thank you very much, and good night.